But I think like everybody, I was just so infatuated with her. And so we're doing this scene on the beach, and I looked at her and I said, boy, I can't believe I'm acting with you. And I said, I was so in love with you when I was a little boy. And she goes, thanks a lot.
Welcome to A Word on Westerns. Today we are very lucky to have Jeff Osterhage with us. Now, Jeff has made some great films that are Westerns. He also starred on Dragnet, but The Sackets, one of the best miniseries ever made. He's Tyrell Sackett. Could you please welcome Jeff Osterhage?
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, thank you. How are you?
Good. Besides nervous.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you, I loved The Sackets. That
Thank you.
sure changed things in the way that Westerns looked. It was such an unusual miniseries at the time, based on the Louis L'Amour novels. Jim Burns wrote it, produced it, and Bob Totten, an unknown director really, who knew where to put the camera for Westerns, was behind that. How did you get the part for that?
Well, I had done, like you said, True Grit: A Further Adventure with Warren Oates, and went into audition for The Sackets. I hadn't even read the screenplay yet. It was just another audition that Bruce probably knows. You just go in and get called in and, you know, keep your fingers crossed. And so you pass that audition, and then they gave out little voucher tickets to go out to Randall Ranch to do riding on the horses. So I got there, and there was about, I think, 20, 30, 40 maybe people for my part of Tyrell Sackett, the youngest brother, and probably the same for Orrin Sackett, which was Tom Selleck's role. And so just a big mass, kind of a cattle call, no pun intended, and we're sitting in the bleachers around the arena, and all of a sudden here comes this guy named Sam Elliott. And he's walking in, and I go, wow, that guy did Lifeguard. I know that guy. He's a damn good actor. And somebody said, yeah, he's starring as Tell Sackett in this movie. So my heart's beating. I go, wow. And a few minutes later, Ben Johnson comes walking in. And I'm going, oh my God, is he in this movie too? And then finally, Glenn Ford comes walking in. And I'm going, wow, whoever gets this part's going to be one lucky guy. So they were taking us in pairs, the Orrin Sackett and Ty Sackett, and having in pairs just right around the arena. And they called me and Buck Taylor, because little did anybody know, Buck Taylor was supposed to play Orrin Sackett. He was Bob Totten's best friend, I guess, a real good friend. So Buck Taylor, the real cowboy, and I'm just the city slicker cowboy, he helped me saddle the horse and get on. And I was a pretty good rider. I'd already done one Western. And so we rode around the arena, and everybody else to that point, the Ty and Orrin combinations, Bob would send home. And then he told me and Buck Taylor to go sit back in the bleachers.
Had the other people who were coming up for the part, did they know how to ride?
Some did, some didn't. You know, you could see the bad ones and the really, really good ones, you know. I was probably halfway in the middle, you know, someplace. But anyway, we sat in the bleachers, and then he sent everybody home. And he then told Buck and me to go back out there, get on horses. He told Sam Elliott to get back on a horse, and he had all three of us ride around the arena a few times, and it was just really unusual. I mean, I was going crazy. I go, what's going on here? And then he said, come this way. We rode up to the main grandstand in front of Ben and Glenn and Bob and everybody else, and he stood up and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Sackett brothers.
Wow.
And I nearly shit. I go, what? You know. So I went home and called my parents. I go, I think I got a pretty good part here. I still hadn't even read the screenplay.
Did you know that it was not just a 2-hour, but a 4-hour?
It was actually a 6-hour to begin with, and they had to edit out a bunch of stuff. So we filmed 6 hours worth of a 6-hour miniseries.
Wow, I'd love to see that other footage put back together. How did Buck end up losing that part?
Apparently, Selleck, since he was a soap star, and I guess he was the Marlboro Man or something, he'd done posters, and so the network really wanted to give him a chance. And so they just, I guess, basically, unfortunately, kicked Buck out. And so then Buck wound up playing,
as the bad guy, you know, having a shootout.
Carney, Reed Carney, that I got to draw down in the street. And,
he was great.
Yes, he was, and he would have been equally good as Orrin Sackett, in my opinion. You know, Selleck kicked ass, did a wonderful job.
Bob Totten, because people don't don't really know his name. I think he had been mentored by Delmer Daves, a director who did Broken Arrow and Drumbeat, and Bob had been under him and really understood Westerns, had directed some of the Gunsmoke episodes.
Which is how I think he met Buck and got to be friends, I think.
He certainly used Buck in a lot of different things that he did. What was he like as a director?
Well, it was my second film, so I think he took me under his wing. Other than that, he yelled at everybody else. I mean...
the reverse of John Ford.
Yeah, right. But I think he wanted to be these bombastic, big directors. But to show you how authentic he was, we did the few scenes with the cattle drive, and we actually did the cattle drive with real, cattlemen, and we took, with actors and stunt guys and cowboys, and we would drive them. I think it was about 2 or 3, 4 days worth. We'd drive them one way, miles, drive them this way, all while the cameras are rolling everything. But when we started to do it, they were all shorthorn steer. And Bob Totten says there was no such thing as shorthorn steer back in those days, and so he got rid of them, and he apparently, out of his own pocket, bought a longhorn steer herd, and that's what we used then. So and he made the saddles authentic. I'm sure a lot of cowboys, westerns are authentic and everything, but he was really meticulous and tedious.
Boy, I think Selleck learned that, because in the TV movies that Selleck does that are all very authentic and terrific, he makes sure that the people have the right tack, the right costumes, and the look and feel of those is comparable to how good the Sackett's was.
Yeah, because he had Selleck and me out 2 to 3 weeks prior of filming. Sam Elliott was already doing his filming, but Selleck didn't even know how to sit a horse. No offense, buddy, if you're in the room. But he had us out there riding. I was, like I said, decent, but we were roping and cleaning the horses and feeding them and doing everything possible to get a real fast, hard, and cold lesson.
That miniseries had not just the three of you, who were pretty unknown at the time as the leads, but populated with, like you said, Ben Johnson, Glenn Ford, Jack Elam, Gene Evans, Pat Buttram, Paul Koslow.
Yes.
It's just one right after the other. What was it like for you to be with this wonderful group of character actors?
Well, it was so funny because, like I said, seeing them all come in, at that first thing, and I thought, man, here I am filming, and just like when you're a little kid, you get the cowboy fan or 50s, and I get to draw down people in the street. I'm the lead in this movie, surrounded by all these people. I was so very lucky and so honored, and I thought, well, all movies are this good, and this, which they aren't, which I've done many after that aren't.
Well, what's interesting too for me is you look at that, and Jim Burns produced and wrote it, but just a marvelous script. But your character, you're the moral compass of the film. The other two brothers are kind of back and forth. Tom's character gets involved in politics, and of course, you know where that takes him. But you were the heart of it, and what a wonderful performance that was.
Oh, thank you. And I honestly, thanks to Bob Totten, like you said, because I'm not controlling the camera where that goes, but he was doing it from my point of view, and the camera would be behind my head and show Selleck stuff, and I go, wow. Once again, I just felt so lucky to be in such a great production, And I was only 25, and it was only my second movie.
Well, I remember I had just moved out here from Florida, and there was a party at the Writers Guild, and Jock Mahoney invited me to go to it, and it was a screening of the Sackett's, and everybody was there. I didn't meet you, but I met Sam, I met Tom Selleck, Dick Foran was invited, because I guess they invited all these cowboy people. Pat Buttram, of course, was there.
Buttram, yeah.
And that's when I met Harry Carey. Dick Foran introduced me to Dobie and Marilyn Carey, who became dear friends.
Harry Carey played our father in the sequel, The Shadow Riders.
Right, The Shadow Riders. Let's talk about The Shadow Riders. The Shadow Riders was sort of a sequel to The Sackett's,
right,
but the names were changed to protect
the innocent.
The innocent.
Apparently somebody had the rights to the Sackett name. I didn't quite understand all the legalities, but they had to call us the Travens. But they wanted us to get the Selleck and Sam and I to get back together. And then
and Ben, Uncle Ben was in
Ben
there
back
too,
in it. And then Catherine Ross is in it with us, which is great. I remember sitting on the beach with her. We had a scene, and I'd already met her during the Sackett's 4 years prior, because Sam and her were boyfriend and girlfriend. Now, of course, they're long married. but I think like everybody, I was just so infatuated with her. And so we're doing this scene on the beach, and I looked at her and I said, boy, I can't believe I'm acting with you. And I said, I was so in love with you when I was a little boy. And she goes, thanks a lot. I go, well, no, you're not that little.
Yeah, they always love to hear that.
What a class act, though. She's gorgeous. She was here in November.
Yes, she was. That was a great night,
and
too.
so shy and demure, and I just, we'd always flirt in front of Sam, for fun, And,
well, that one, not only did you bring Ben back, too, but Jeffrey Lewis was in that.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Terrific. I think Gene Evans.
Gene Evans was back, because he was in the Sackets, like you mentioned, right?
Well, and like you said, Dobie played the father, and the mother was Jane Greer, who was in one of my favorite films, Out of the Past. Okay. She is just a fine actress, too.
And beautiful.
So the difference between Bob Totten, who is an unknown director, did stellar work, and Andy McLaughlin. What was the difference in the style? Was Andy, did he work with you to get performances, or how did he do it?
That was part of, to me, the crime that they got Ben and Sam and Tom and I all back together, but they didn't bring Totten along. And like we said earlier, Totten's kind of the one that made the Sackets what it was. So when the Shadow Riders came around, we were kind of disappointed he wasn't on board. And I think Sam had done a series, some ship series or something that McLaughlin had directed, and they befriended each other, so Sam got him to do the Shadow Riders. But to answer your question, Totten, like I said, was a screamer, not to me, and McLaughlin to me was just the opposite. I was doing the scene with Catherine, and I'm doing my, heavy acting, taking pauses, and his only direction to me, he goes, okay, let's do take two. Can you speed it up a little? That was it. I go, okay.
Good direction, though.
Yeah, I guess. I think I went just as slow. You cut it faster. But I need to emote.
But Andy McLaughlin was such a warm, wonderful guy, big A, and then Andy Prine worked with him over and over again, too. He was little A to Andy's big A, and he and Dobie, they grew up knowing each other, as kids. And Shenandoah, another terrific movie that Andy directed. But
and I didn't mean to disparage him. He's a great guy.
No, I did.
You meant to disparage.
No, I mean, it's like you watch his movies and you go, oh, please. But he did some excellent Gunsmoke episodes. I think he directed more Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel episodes than any other single director. Yes. Hi, I'm Rob Word. I hope you enjoyed A Word on Westerns. It's an interview series we do. We post a new one every single week. If you missed any, just sign up for this little baby right here. Whoa.